Hello, Night Seekers, and welcome to Lacuna Noir. This is where forgotten stories and gentle voices meet, carrying you softly into peaceful sleep, wrapped in mystery. Before tonight's stories begin, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Drop a comment below and let me know. And a little note before we begin. You may notice a few brief ads in the first 10 minutes, but after that, the rest of the video is completely ad-free. Just you, the silence, and the stories. So settle in, get comfortable, and let the night carry you. If you're drawn to these quiet, shadowed nights, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story when darkness calls. I'm 27 years old. I live alone in a third-floor apartment, and ever since I moved to this city, I haven't been sleeping properly. At first, I blamed the usual things. New job, new neighborhood, new apartment, new sounds, or maybe the lack of sounds. My old place had been near a busy road, so there was always something happening outside. Cars, people talking, sirens somewhere in the distance, a neighbor dragging furniture around at midnight for reasons I never understood. My new apartment was different. It was quiet, too quiet. The building itself was old, but not charming old. More like the kind of place that had been painted over so many times that the corners of the walls looked soft. The hallway lights buzzed. The pipes made noises in the morning. My bedroom had one large window facing the street, and even though I lived on the third floor, I always kept the curtains closed at night. I couldn't explain why. I just didn't like looking out that window after dark. For the first few weeks, I kept waking up around 2 or 3 in the morning. Sometimes I'd wake because I thought I'd heard something in the hallway. Sometimes I'd wake because I thought someone had whispered my name. And sometimes I'd simply open my eyes for no reason at all and lie there staring at the ceiling, while the ceiling fan clicked above me. Click, click, click. My coworker Mina eventually noticed how bad I looked. She worked at the desk across from mine and had no problem telling people exactly what she thought. One Friday afternoon, she leaned around the divider between our desks and stared at me for a few seconds. "You look like shit." "Good afternoon to you, too. I'm serious." "So am I." "You sleeping?" "Not really." "Nightmares?" "Sometimes." She leaned closer. "What kind?" I laughed. "I'm not giving you material to make fun of me with. I'm not making fun of you. That should have been my first warning." Mina made fun of everyone. She was the kind of person who would hear that someone broke their ankle and immediately ask if they at least looked cool while falling. But this time, she looked genuinely concerned. "Come with me tomorrow," she said. "Where?" "To see someone." "A doctor?" "Not exactly." I groaned. "If this is some herbal sleep thing, I'm not drinking mushroom tea." "It's not mushroom tea." "Acupuncture?" "No." "Massage?" "No." "Then what?" She lowered her voice, even though nobody nearby was listening. "A psychic." I stared at her. Then I laughed. "Mina didn't. You are serious." "Yes, no, why?" "Because I'm tired, not haunted." "You don't know that." "I absolutely know that." She crossed her arms. "His name is Mr. Liang. That somehow makes this worse. He's helped people. I'm sure he has. Just come." "Mina, one visit." "No, I'll pay." I looked at her. That changed things slightly. "Why are you so interested in this?" She hesitated. Then she said, "Because you keep waking up at night." "So?" "And because you told me yesterday that sometimes you hear someone outside your bedroom door." I hadn't remembered telling her that. I tried to laugh it off. It's an apartment building. People walk through hallways. At 3 in the morning? Some people work late. You said the footsteps stop outside your door. I stopped smiling. Mina grabbed her bag. "Tomorrow noon." I should have refused. Instead, probably because I was tired, and probably because I knew she'd never stop asking, I agreed. Mr. Liang worked above a phone repair shop downtown. That was not what I had expected. I don't know what I'd imagined. Maybe candles, strange symbols, an old house full of incense. Instead, Mina led me through a narrow door beside a shop displaying cracked iPhones in the window. A staircase took us to the second floor. At the top was a hallway with peeling paint. Mr. Liang's room was at the end. It was cramped. There was one small window covered by a dark curtain, a ceiling fan that clicked every few seconds, and shelves filled with objects I didn't recognize. The room smelled like ash. Not incense, ash, like something had recently burned there. Mr. Liang was older, maybe in his 60s. Thin, gray hair, plain shirt. He didn't look theatrical. That surprised me. I had expected someone who tried very hard to look mysterious. Instead, he looked tired. Mina introduced us. He barely acknowledged her. Then he pointed toward a chair. I sat down. He sat across from me. For maybe 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then he reached across the table and grabbed my wrist. I pulled back slightly. "Can you not? Quiet?" His fingers tightened around me. Then he closed his eyes. His lips moved. He was counting. At least I think he was. I could only hear pieces 6, 7. His expression slowly changed. Not dramatically. That would have been easier to dismiss. He simply stopped looking calm. His fingers loosened. He opened his eyes. Then he asked me a question. "Which side of your bed faces the window?" I frowned. "What? Your bed?" "Yeah, which side faces the window?" I told him. His face changed completely. The color seemed to leave it. Mina noticed too. "What?" she asked. Miss Liang ignored her. He stared directly at me. "What day is today?" "Saturday," he whispered something under his breath. Then he looked toward the ceiling. When he looked at me again, his voice was different, more urgent. "A woman will come for you at midnight on Tuesday." I laughed. It was automatic. Miss Liang didn't. Neither did Mina. "Okay," I said. "Sure, before 12, he continued. "You must hide beneath your bed." My smile faded. "What?" "Stay flat." He held one hand level with the table. "Do not move. Do not make any sound." I glanced at Mina. She was staring at him. "Why under the bed?" Mr. Liang answered immediately. "She cannot see what is below." Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. Not she cannot bend down. Not she will not look. She cannot see what is below. I tried to make a joke. "Can I get a charm or something? Maybe some holy water?" Mina kicked me in the shin. "Ow." Mr. Liang didn't smile. He reached for a receipt on the table. He took a pen. Then he wrote something in large block letters. "Tuesday before 12:00, under the bed." He pushed the receipt toward me. "Do not forget." I took it mostly because refusing felt awkward. "Right, Mr. Liang kept staring at me. "You will want to think this is foolish. I already do. That will not matter." I stood. "Anything else?" He looked at my wrist, then at my face. "No." I left. For the rest of Saturday, I joked about it. I told Mina that if a ghost came through my window, I would send Mr. Liang the repair bill. She didn't laugh much. On Sunday, I forgot about the whole thing for several hours. By Monday, the story had already started feeling ridiculous. A woman would come for me at midnight, hide under my bed. It sounded like something from a cheap horror movie. I decided I wasn't going to let some stranger ruin my week. Then Tuesday came. I got home from work, ate dinner, watched television. Everything was normal. By 9:30, I was almost proud of myself for not thinking about Mr. Liang. Then I went to brush my teeth. It was 9:40 p.m. I was standing at the bathroom sink when I noticed a piece of paper beside the faucet. A receipt. I stopped brushing. I looked at it. Tuesday, before 12:00. under the bed. For several seconds, I simply stared. Then I checked my pocket. Nothing. I walked into the hallway. My jacket was hanging inside the closet. I opened it. My wallet was still zipped inside the inner pocket. I pulled it out, opened it. The receipt was not there. I went back to the bathroom. It was still sitting beside the sink. My hands started shaking before I consciously decided I was scared. I picked up the receipt. The paper was dry, clean, exactly how I remembered it. I checked the apartment. Front door, locked, windows locked, closet empty, bathroom empty, bedroom empty. I checked beneath the bed. Nothing except dust and an old sock. By 10:30, I had pushed a chair under my bedroom door handle. By 11, I was sitting on my bed with all the lights on. I kept checking the time. 11:30, 11:41, 11:47. I told myself I was being stupid. Then I looked at the receipt. 11:50. My heart was already pounding. 11:55. I stood up. No, I actually said it aloud. This is ridiculous. 11:57. I looked at the space beneath the bed. 11:58. I got down on the floor. I hated myself for doing it. But I did it. I slid under the bed. Dust immediately got into my nose. The wooden frame was only inches above my face. From where I lay, I could see the carpet, the bottom of the bedroom door, part of the wall, and the red glow of the alarm clock. I held my breath. 11:59. The ceiling fan clicked overhead. Click, 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 12:0. Something hit the pavement outside my window. Crack, I nearly screamed. It didn't sound like someone dropping something. It sounded wet, heavy, like a watermelon splitting on concrete. Silence, then another sound. Crack, crack, crack. I couldn't understand what I was hearing at first. Then I realized. Bones, joints, something outside was rearranging itself. My body went completely cold. Then I heard my front door open, not unlock. Open, I had locked it. I knew I had locked it. The apartment became silent again. Then tap. Tap, tap, something moved across my living room. Tap, drag, not footsteps. Something hard was striking the floor, something round. It moved slowly, through the living room, toward the hallway, toward my bedroom. Tap, tap, tap. The sound stopped outside the door. I could hear nothing for several seconds. Then the chair moved. It scraped across the floor. My bedroom door slowly swung inward. From beneath the bed, I watched the lower edge move. The room darkened slightly. Tap, something entered. Tap, closer, then it stopped beside the bed. I covered my mouth. My phone buzzed against my chest. I almost screamed. My entire body jerked. For one insane second, I considered ignoring it. Then the phone buzzed again. I carefully tilted it. A message. MR, lying. I opened it. I made a mistake. My stomach tightened. Another message appeared. She didn't hang herself. Another, she jumped. Landed head first. Then, her head is on the ground. You need to be above her. Get high. Now, I stared at the words. The mattress above me slowly sank. Something had climbed onto the bed. One of the wooden slats pressed against my cheek. My phone almost slipped from my hands. Don't move. My first instruction. Stay under the bed. But Mr. Liang had been wrong. She couldn't see below because he'd thought her head would be above me if she'd hanged herself. But she hadn't. Her head was on the floor, exactly where I was. I slowly turned my face toward the edge of the bed. A face was already there, only inches away. Sideways, her cheek was pressed flat against the carpet. Wet black hair spread around her head like spilled ink. Her nose had been crushed sideways. One side of her skull looked wrong. Collapsed, her eyes were wide open, looking directly at me. Above her head, her body rose upside down. She was balancing on the top and side of her crushed skull. Her arms and legs bent upward at impossible angles. knees backward, elbows twisted. She looked like a human body that had been dropped and then put back together without anyone checking how the joints were supposed to work. Her mouth opened. She smiled. I screamed. Then I shoved myself backward. I shot out from the opposite side of the bed. My shoulders scraped painfully across the carpet. Behind me came a wet sliding sound, her skull scraping across the floor. Then, snap, crack, snap. Her limbs unfolded. I reached my feet and ran. Behind me, tap, 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 tap. Fast now. Her head hit the floor with every movement of her upside-down body. I reached the hallway. My foot slipped. My knee smashed into the floor. Pain shot through my leg. Then something cold touched the back of my neck. Fingers, wet fingers. They slid beneath my collar. I screamed and twisted away. I grabbed the bathroom door frame and pulled myself upright. The hallway lights were off. I couldn't see her, but I could hear her. Tap, tap, tap. Faster, closer, and something else. Breathing, short, quick breaths coming through a ruined nose. Sniff, 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 like she was smelling for me. I ran toward the front door. My fingers hit the lock. I couldn't turn it. My hands had gone numb. Behind me, the air became cold. I heard wet hair dragging across the floor near my heels. Come on. The lock wouldn't move. Come on. Click, I threw the door open. I ran into the stairwell. I almost went down. Then I remembered the message. Get high. I turned. Up, I took the stairs 2 and 3 at a time. Behind me, thud, 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 she had entered the stairwell. I climbed. 3rd floor. Then the stairs to the roof. I hit the rooftop door with my shoulder. It flew open. Cold night air hit me. I stumbled outside. Then spun around to shut the door. Before it closed, I looked down the stairwell. She was at the bottom. Her head rested against the first step. Her body arched high above it. She looked up at me. Even upside down, even with half her face crushed, she was smiling. Then she started climbing. Thud, thud, thud. Her skull hit every stair. Too fast. She moved faster than anything with bones should be able to move. I slammed the rooftop door. There was no lock. I pressed my entire body against it. Thud, thud, closer. The impacts vibrated through the metal. Thud, closer. I pushed harder. Then something shot beneath the small gap under the door. A hand. It grabbed my ankle. I screamed. The fingers tightened. I kicked. The rooftop disappeared. I woke up in bed. I shot upright. I couldn't breathe. The ceiling fan clicked above me. Click, click, click. My sheets were soaked with sweat. They were twisted tightly around my legs. For one horrible second, I thought something had pulled them. Then I understood. Dream, it had been a dream. A nightmare. Nothing more. I covered my face with both hands. My heart was beating so hard that my chest hurt. Jesus Christ. I sat there breathing. Slowly, the bedroom became familiar again. My dresser, window, curtains, bedroom door, alarm clock, everything normal. I grabbed my phone. No messages from Mr. Liang, nothing unusual. I checked the clock. 11:51 p.m. Tuesday, I stared at it. Then I laughed. A weak, shaky laugh. I had fallen asleep. That was all. My stupid brain had taken Mr. Liang's warning and turned it into a nightmare. I had dreamed the entire thing before midnight even arrived. The psychic, the receipt, the woman, the stairwell, all of it. I lay back against the pillow. Idiot, the apartment was completely quiet. Only the refrigerator humming faintly from the kitchen. The ceiling fan clicking. I closed my eyes. I told myself I wasn't going under the bed. I was done with that nonsense. Then I heard something, far below. Outside, maybe 3 floors down. Crack, my eyes opened. I didn't move. Silence, then thud. I sat up slowly. Another pause. Thud, not outside anymore. Inside the building. Thud, coming from the stairwell. I grabbed my phone. 11:58. Another thud. Closer, 11:59. My mouth went dry. No, thud. Closer. I looked at the bedroom door. The chair wasn't beneath the handle, because that had been part of the dream. I hadn't locked the windows, I hadn't checked the front door, I hadn't done any of it. Thud, I jumped out of bed. My foot hit the carpet. The alarm clock changed. 12:00. The colon between the numbers stopped blinking. I stared. 12:00. Nothing moved. Not 12:01. Still 12:00. Then the ceiling fan stopped. The refrigerator stopped humming. The entire apartment went silent. Thud, one floor below. I ran toward the bedroom door, then stopped, under the bed. That was the original warning, but the warning had been wrong in the dream. Above her, get high. But had that message been part of the dream too? I didn't know. What if the dream was a warning? What if it was showing me what would happen if I followed the wrong instructions? Thud, closer, I looked around my bedroom. 3rd floor. High already. But apparently, not high enough. The roof, that was where I'd gone in the dream. And she had followed me there. So that hadn't worked either. My phone buzzed. I almost dropped it. MR, lying, my fingers shook as I opened the message. Do not do what you dreamed. I stared. Then another message. She showed you that. Another, she wants you to run up. My legs felt weak. I typed, where do I go? The response came immediately. Nowhere, I stared at the screen. Another thud shook the hallway outside my apartment. I typed, what? Mister, Liang replied, stay where you are. Then, do not hide. Do not run. Then, make her look up. My brain couldn't understand the instruction. Make her look up? How? Another message arrived. She has been looking down since she died. If she looks up, she will see where she really is. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have time to ask. My front door opened. I heard it. Slowly, no lock turning. No wood breaking. It simply opened. Tap. Something entered the apartment. Tap. Drag. Tap. I stood beside the bed. Every instinct screamed at me to hide. I didn't. Tap. Closer. My phone buzzed again. Do not let her know you are afraid. Wonderful. Easy instruction. I was only standing in my bedroom, waiting for a dead woman who walked on her skull. Tap. Tap. The sound entered the hallway. I looked around desperately. How do you force something to look up when its head is on the floor? I looked toward the window, then toward the ceiling fan. The fan had stopped with one blade pointing toward the window. Moonlight leaked around the curtain. I grabbed the curtain cord. Tap. She was outside the bedroom. I pulled. The curtains opened. Bright moonlight entered the room. The bedroom door slowly moved inward. Her head appeared first. Black hair dragged across the carpet. Then her face, exactly as I'd seen in the dream. Crushed, sideways, smiling, her body rose above her. Hands placed near her ears. Legs bent over her back. She tapped forward on her skull. Tap, tap, she stopped. Her eyes locked onto mine. My knees nearly gave out. I forced myself to stand. You came for me. Her smile widened. Something cracked inside her face. I looked at the window. Moonlight, 3rd floor. I suddenly remembered something from the dream. Something I hadn't questioned. The sound outside. The first crack. Her body hitting pavement. If she had jumped, from where? Did you jump from here? I asked. Her smile disappeared. The room became colder. I swallowed. This building? Her fingers dug into the carpet. I kept talking. You died here. Her head twitched. Crack. You landed outside this window. She started moving toward me. Tap, tap, tap. I backed toward the window. Not running, just moving. Why? Her mouth opened. A wet clicking sound came from her throat. Why did you jump? She stopped. For the first time, her eyes moved away from mine, toward the floor. No, I needed her to look up. I remembered Mr. Liang's message. She has been looking down since she died. If she looks up, she will see where she really is. I grabbed the edge of my desk lamp. Then I threw it at the ceiling. The bulb shattered. The sound was enormous. The woman jerked. Her eyes moved upward. Only slightly, not enough. Her body started shaking. I shouted, "Look up." She screamed. The sound was nothing like a human scream. The windows shook. Her limbs unfolded. She rushed toward me. Tap, 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 tap. I backed against the wall. "Look up." Her hand reached toward my throat. Then I grabbed the only thing I could reach, the ceiling fan chain. I yanked it. The fan started turning. Click, click, click. Her body froze. Her eyes moved, up toward the fan. Everything stopped. She stared at the ceiling. Her face changed, not physically. Emotionally, the smile vanished. For the first time, she looked confused, then frightened. I followed her gaze. At first, I saw nothing. Then the ceiling wasn't there anymore. There was darkness. Not the darkness of a room without lights. Something deeper, huge, and inside it, far above us, were hundreds of shapes. People hanging, falling, twisted, frozen in positions of death. Some looked down. Some covered their faces. Some reached toward something even farther above. The woman beneath me stared. Her crushed mouth opened. No, it was the first real word I'd heard from her. She tried to look down again. I shouted. "No, look," she screamed. The darkness above seemed to open wider. Something pulled at her. Her hair rose from the carpet. Her hands clawed into the floor. For the first time, her skull lifted, only an inch, then two. Her neck was almost completely destroyed beneath it. She looked at me, not smiling anymore. She looked terrified. "Please." I almost stopped. Then I remembered the dream, her hand around my ankle, her face beneath my bed, the way she chased me. I stepped backward. "I'm sorry." Something above us pulled. Her fingers ripped through the carpet. Then her entire body rose, slowly at first. Her skull left the floor. Her limbs unfolded. Her body turned in the air. For one brief second, she looked almost normal. A woman. Young, maybe around my age, black hair falling around her shoulders, tears on her face. Then the darkness took her. The ceiling returned. The fan continued spinning. Click, click, click. The apartment became silent. I stood there for what felt like hours. My phone buzzed. "Mr. Liang, is she gone?" I typed, yes. 3 dots appeared. Then, good. I sat on the floor. I couldn't stop shaking. After a minute, I typed, "Who was she?" This time, Mr. Liang took longer to answer. Finally, "The woman who lived in your apartment before you." I stared at the message. Another followed. "She died 3 years ago." Then, the landlord changed the flooring. I looked down. There were fresh scratches in my carpet where her fingers had dug into it. I typed, "Why did she come for ME?" His answer came several minutes later. "She didn't." I frowned. Then another message appeared. Not at first. I waited. "She was trying to show you." I looked toward the window. "Show me what?" I typed the question. His reply, "How she died." I felt sick. I typed, "She jumped." 3 dots. Then, no. I stared. Another message came. "I told you that because I thought it would help you understand her position." My hands went cold. I typed, "Then what happened?" Mr. Liang didn't answer immediately. When he finally did, it was only 3 words. She was pushed. I looked toward my bedroom door, then at the window, then back at my phone. Who pushed her? No answer. I called Mina. She didn't pick up. I called again. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. Not Mr. Liang. Mina. A text. "You okay?" I typed, "Call ME." She didn't. I tried calling again, straight to voicemail. Then another message came from her. "Did he tell you about the woman?" I stopped. I typed, "Yes." Mina replied, "Okay." Something about that answer bothered me. I asked, "How did you know?" No response. I stood slowly. The apartment felt wrong again. Not haunted, just wrong. I walked toward the hallway. My front door was open. I hadn't opened it. Beyond it, the building hallway was empty. Then my phone buzzed. Mr. Liang, do not trust Mina. My stomach dropped. Another message. She did not bring you to ME because you couldn't sleep. Another. She brought you because she knew which apartment you rented. I looked down the hallway. Nothing. Then, from the stairwell, I heard footsteps. Normal footsteps. Someone climbing toward the third floor. One step at a time. My phone buzzed again. MR. Lying. Lock your door. I slammed it shut. Locked it. Then pushed the chair beneath the handle. The footsteps continued. Second floor, then third. They stopped outside my apartment. 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. My phone buzzed. A message from Mina. Open the door. I didn't move. Another. It's ME. Then, MR. Liang is confused. I backed away. The doorknob moved slowly. Mina texted again. Please, then another message from Mr. Liang appeared. She pushed her. I stared at those words. The knocking stopped. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then Mina spoke through the door. You don't understand. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. Mina? Open the door. No, you need to listen to me. Did you know her? Silence, Mina? Open the door. Did you push her? Another silence. Then Mina laughed softly. Not because it was funny, because she'd realized there was no point pretending anymore. You should have stayed under the bed. The hallway light outside went out. I saw the darkness beneath the door. Then something struck it from the other side. Hard, the chair jumped. I backed toward the bedroom. Another impact. The wood cracked. My phone buzzed one final time. Miss Liang, the dead woman was not trying to kill you. She was trying to keep you from opening the door. The chair slid another inch. I looked toward my bedroom window. Third floor. The same window the woman had fallen from 3 years earlier. Another impact hit the front door. A crack split down the middle. Mina called through it. There's nowhere to go. I looked toward the window again. Maybe she was right. Maybe she wasn't. The clock still read 12:0. The colon still wasn't blinking. And now, from somewhere below my window, I can hear something tapping against the pavement again. Tap, 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 but this time, it isn't coming up the stairs. It's climbing the outside wall. Have you ever known someone who seems completely real? Someone you have spoken to, laughed with, eaten with, and seen almost every week, only to discover that according to every official record you can find, that person does not exist? Not that they died, not that they disappeared. I mean, they were never born. No birth certificate, no school records, no childhood photographs, no hospital records. Nothing, even worse. Imagine asking that person's own grandparents about them and being met with complete confusion. I don't have to imagine it. It happened to me. The person I'm talking about is my friend Can's older sister, Rem. Rem is 21 years old. At least, that's what I had always believed. She's cheerful, friendly, and the kind of person who naturally helps everyone around her. She attended university and worked part-time at a local cafe. There was nothing mysterious about her. I knew Rem personally. She had made coffee for Can and me more times than I could count. Whenever Can and I argued over something stupid, she would usually be the one to step between us and tell us both to stop acting like children. Sometimes she teased us. Sometimes she sat with us. Sometimes she complained that we were too loud. She wasn't some person Can had mentioned in stories. I had seen her. I had spoken to her. And it wasn't just me. All of Can's friends knew Rem. Her boyfriend, Aaron, had been dating her for 2 years. Her manager at the cafe knew her. Her coworkers knew her. Neighbors greeted her when they saw her outside. She lived an ordinary life. She was as real as anyone else. At least, that's what I thought until last week. It started while I was visiting Can at his house. Nothing dramatic happened at first. There wasn't some sudden scream from another room or a shadow moving across the wall. If anything, that was what made everything that happened afterward so disturbing. The evening felt normal, almost too normal. Ken and I had spent hours sitting in the living room, talking about random things and wasting time the way we always did. But at some point, I began feeling uncomfortable. I couldn't explain why. The house felt unusually heavy. The air wasn't physically hot, but breathing inside that living room started to feel difficult. It was almost as though the room had been sealed for years, and we were slowly using up whatever oxygen remained. I kept shifting in my seat. Can didn't seem bothered. Neither did Rem. Everything around me looked exactly as it should. The television was playing quietly. Can was scrolling through his phone. Rem moved between the kitchen and living room occasionally. Nothing was wrong, yet something inside me kept insisting that something was very wrong. Eventually, Can suggested going onto the balcony for a cigarette. I agreed immediately. The moment I stepped outside, the cold night air hit my face and filled my lungs. I hadn't realized how badly I needed it. I took 2 cigarettes from the pack and handed one to Can. He placed it between his lips. I flicked the lighter. For a second, the small flame illuminated both of our faces in the darkness. Then it disappeared. I took a deep drag and slowly blew the smoke over the balcony railing. My thoughts were scattered. I kept thinking about the living room. Nothing strange had actually happened there, yet I couldn't get rid of that feeling. It reminded me of seeing a photograph where everything appears normal until you look closely and realize someone's reflection is facing the wrong direction. You might not notice the problem immediately, but your brain does. That was how the house felt. Every piece was in the correct place, but somehow the whole thing was wrong. I was about to mention it to Can when the balcony door creaked behind us. I turned. Rem stepped outside carrying 2 glasses of tea. Steam rose from them and disappeared into the cold air. She smiled, that familiar, warm smile, and I remember staring at her more carefully than usual. Maybe because of the strange feeling I'd had inside. She looked completely normal, completely human. There was nothing ghostly about her. Her hair moved slightly in the night breeze. I could smell her shampoo when she passed close to me. Her cardigan had tiny loose threads around one sleeve. Her fingers tightened naturally around the hot glass as she handed it to me. She wasn't transparent. She wasn't pale. Her eyes weren't black. Nothing about her looked supernatural. She was simply Rem, a 21-year-old woman standing on a balcony with her younger brother and his friend. She belonged there. She belonged in that house. Ken thanked her and took the tea. He finished his cigarette and flicked the ash over the balcony. Then, probably just trying to start the usual sibling teasing, he casually asked her a question. "Sis, we're going to the village next week. Are you coming?" Rem leaned against the iron railing. She looked toward the empty street below us, where weak streetlights created small circles of yellow light along the road. She took a sip of tea. Her expression remained calm. "Oh, honey, you know I'd really like to come, but I'm busy here." I looked at her. That didn't make sense. "Sis, didn't you just leave your job? And your school is finished, too. What could you possibly be busy with?" The change in her expression was immediate. Her eyes widened, not dramatically, but enough for me to notice. She looked at me as if I'd said something deeply offensive. "None of your business, kid. Don't interfere." Her tone was much sharper than I expected. Ken immediately stepped in. "Hey, sis, calm down. He didn't mean anything." Rem looked at him. then at me. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The street below us was completely empty. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. I forced a small laugh. Sorry, I was just asking. Rem's expression softened almost immediately. Too quickly. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. That sweet smile returned. It's fine. She reached over and lightly touched my shoulder. Her hand was warm. That's one detail I remember very clearly. Warm, not cold like a ghost in some horror movie. Not strange. Human warmth. Then she looked at Can. You two shouldn't stay outside too long. It's cold. She went back inside. The balcony door slid shut behind her. I watched her through the glass as she disappeared into the hallway. Then I turned toward Can. What was that? He shrugged. She's been weird lately. Weird how? I don't know. Just weird. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. What? You can't say that and then stop. He sighed and leaned against the railing. She gets angry whenever we talk about the village. That caught my attention. Why? No idea. Did something happen there? Not that I know of. When was the last time she went? Ken opened his mouth, then stopped. His face changed slightly. I don't know. What do you mean? I don't remember. I laughed. You don't remember when your sister last visited your grandparents? No. Last year? He stared into the street. Maybe you go every year. I know. So she went with you. He didn't answer. I watched him. For the first time that evening, Ken looked uncomfortable. He took another cigarette from my pack without asking. I'm probably just forgetting. Maybe he was. People forget things. There was nothing impossible about that. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about it. When did she stop working at the cafe? I asked. A couple weeks ago. Why? No idea. You don't know why your sister quit? She didn't tell me. What about university? Finished? Graduated? He hesitated again. I think so. You think so? Can turn toward me. Why are you interrogating me? I'm not. I'm just asking. Well, stop. There was irritation in his voice now. I raised both hands. Fine, we finished our cigarettes and went back inside. Rem was sitting on the sofa. She looked up at us and smiled as though nothing had happened. Want anything else? No thanks, I said. Ken sat down. I remained standing for a moment. That heavy feeling returned almost immediately. The pressure, the strange sense that the house was pretending to be normal. I looked at Rem. She caught me staring. What? Nothing, she smiled. But this time, something about that smile made me want to leave. So I did. I told Ken I was tired and headed home. The next morning, I woke up still thinking about the conversation. I knew it was ridiculous. Rem didn't want to visit the village. So what? Maybe she didn't like her grandparents. Maybe something embarrassing had happened there. Maybe she had plans she didn't want to explain. There were hundreds of normal possibilities. But one question wouldn't leave my mind. When had Rem last visited the village? I'd known Can for years. I'd seen family photographs from their trips. Surely Rem had been in some of them. I opened Instagram. Ken had plenty of old posts. I started scrolling. Birthday pictures, school photos, trips, food, friends. Then I found pictures from the village. Can standing beside his grandfather. Can with his parents. Can sitting at a table outside. No Rem. I kept scrolling. Another year. Again, no Rem. That didn't mean anything. Maybe she didn't like being photographed. I searched for her Instagram profile. I'd seen it before. At least I thought I had. I typed her name. Nothing. I tried different spellings. Nothing. I searched through Can's followers. No Rem. That was strange. I knew she used social media. I'd seen her holding her phone constantly. I messaged Can. What's your sister's Instagram? He replied a few minutes later. She deleted it. When? No clue. Again, no clue. I put my phone down. For the rest of the day, I tried not to think about it. Then Aaron called me. That was unusual. Rem's boyfriend and I knew each other, but we weren't close enough to randomly call each other. I answered. Hey, are you with Can? No, a pause. Have you seen Rem today? No, why? Another pause. I can't reach her. She probably turned her phone off. Her number doesn't exist. I sat up. What? I called and got a message saying the number isn't assigned. Maybe there's a network problem. I thought that too. His breathing sounded strange. Then he said something that made my stomach tighten. I went to the cafe. And? They don't know who she is. I didn't speak. What do you mean? I asked for Rem. The guy at the counter said nobody named Rem has ever worked there. That doesn't make sense. I know. You've met her there. I've picked her up from work dozens of times. Maybe it was a new employee. I spoke to the manager. That silenced me. Aaron continued. The manager I've met before. He says he's never employed anyone named Rem. I thought about the balcony, her fingers around the tea glass, the warmth of her hand on my shoulder. She was there last night, I said. I know. How do you know? I was texting her. That somehow made me feel better. At least someone else remembered. I called Can immediately. He answered after several rings. What's going on with your sister? What do you mean? Aaron can't contact her. So? The cafe says she never worked there. Silence? Can? That's stupid. I know. I'll ask her. Is she home? Yeah, that stopped me. You can see her? She's literally in the kitchen. I don't know why, but hearing that terrified me. Can, listen to me. Don't say anything weird to her. He laughed nervously. What the hell are you talking about? Just don't. Why? I don't know. That was the truth. I didn't know anything. But every instinct I had was telling me not to let Rem know we were questioning her existence. Ken went quiet. Then he whispered, come over. I went. Rem opened the door. Seeing her should have made everything feel ridiculous. There she was. Real, physical, alive Hay, she said. Hey, you look tired. Didn't sleep much. She stepped aside. I entered. The heavy feeling returned. Can was waiting in his room. I walked in and closed the door. He was sitting on the bed with his laptop open. You need to see this. On the screen was a government website. What am I looking at? Family records. My stomach tightened. He pointed toward the screen. His parents were listed. Can was listed as their child. There was no second child. No Rem. Maybe the database is incomplete. That's what I thought. He opened another page. School information. Again, nothing I searched her university to. Nothing, what about her ID? Ken looked at me. I asked Mom where Rem keeps her documents. And? She asked why I needed them. That sounds normal. No, he swallowed. She asked why I needed documents belonging to someone who doesn't live here. The room seemed to become smaller. What? I asked what she meant. He lowered his voice further. She said only the three of us live in this house. I stared at him. You, your mom, and your dad? He nodded. But she talks to Rem. I know. I've seen them talking. I know. Last night she was here. I know. Can's voice cracked. We both went silent. Then someone knocked on the bedroom door. 3 soft knocks. Can and I stared at each other. Boys? Rem, can I come in? Neither of us answered. The handle slowly turned. Rem stepped inside. She looked at the laptop. Then at Can. Then at me. Her smile disappeared. What are you doing? Nothing, Can said quickly. She walked closer. The laptop screen still showed the family records. Rem looked at it. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she smiled. Oh, just that. Oh, my skin went cold. Can stood up. Sis, she looked at him. Don't. His mouth closed. Rem's eyes moved toward me. You started this. I couldn't answer. She wasn't shouting. That made it worse. I just asked a question. You asked the wrong one. Ken moved between us. What the hell is happening? Rem looked at him with something that almost resembled sadness. I told you I was busy. Who are you? The question left his mouth before I could stop him. Rem's expression changed. Not into anger. Pain, real pain. She looked like her younger brother had just said the cruelest thing imaginable. I'm your sister. Then why aren't you in any records? I don't know. Why doesn't Mom remember you? Rem froze. For the first time, she seemed genuinely afraid. What? Ken stared at her. Mom says she only has one child. Rem took a step backward. No, her voice was barely audible. She doesn't remember you. No, Dad doesn't either. No, Rem shook her head. Then she ran from the room. Ken followed. So did I. She rushed into the living room. Can's mother was sitting on the sofa, watching television. Mom? His mother looked up. Rem stood directly in front of her. Mom? No reaction, not even confusion. She looked through her. Rem waved her hand. Mom. Nothing. Can's mother looked toward us. Why are you two running around? Rem slowly turned toward me. I will never forget her face. She looked terrified. Not monstrous. Not evil. Terrified, tears filled her eyes. Mom! Can's mother frowned. Who are you talking to? Ken started crying. Rem dropped to her knees in front of the sofa. She grabbed her mother's hands. Her mother reacted physically. She looked down at her hands, confused, as though she could feel something touching her but couldn't see what it was. Mom, please, she squeezed them. Please look at me. Can's mother pulled her hands away. What is going on? Rem broke down. I had never seen anyone cry like that. Ken stood behind her, completely frozen. Then Rem looked up at him. You can still see me? Ken nodded. She looked at me. And you? Yes, she started crying harder. That night, we called Aaron. He came immediately. He could still see her, too. The four of us sat in Can's room, trying to understand something that had no explanation. Rem remembered her entire life, her childhood. School, birthdays, teachers, friends. She remembered breaking her arm when she was 9. She remembered learning to drive. She remembered meeting Aaron. She remembered everything. But evidence of those memories was disappearing. Photos that once contained her no longer did. Messages Aaron remembered receiving from her had vanished from his phone. Her university had no record of her. The cafe had no record of her. Her phone number no longer existed. Her parents couldn't see her. Then we called Can's grandparents. Ken put the phone on speaker. Grandma, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you remember Rem? Silence. Who? My sister. His grandmother laughed. What sister? Can's face collapsed. Grandma, I'm serious. So am I. You've never had a sister. Rem covered her mouth. Ken looked at her. Grandma, are you sure? Are you feeling okay? He ended the call. Nobody spoke. Rem sat on the floor. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked small. Lost. What am I? She whispered. Nobody had an answer. Aaron sat beside her and held her. At least he could still touch her. At least we all could. For now. That was when I remembered the village. Rem, she looked at me. Why didn't you want to go to the village? Her face changed. I don't know. You got angry when I asked. I know. Why? She stared at the floor. I don't know. That answer scared me more than anything else. Ken crouched beside her. Have you ever been there? Rem opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She closed her eyes. I remember it. What do you remember? Grandpa's house. What does it look like? She remained silent. The garden? Nothing? The road? Nothing. Tears ran down her face. I remember going there, but you can't remember the place. She shook her head. We decided to go. Maybe that was stupid. But we had nothing else. The next morning, Can, Aaron, Rem, and I drove toward the village. The farther we traveled, the quieter Rem became. About 20 kilometers away, she started feeling sick. 10 kilometers away, her nose began bleeding. 5 kilometers away, she screamed, "Stop the car!" Ken slammed on the brakes. Rem threw open the door and stumbled onto the roadside. Aaron followed her. She vomited into the grass. Then she looked toward the road ahead. "I can't go there." "Why?" I asked. "I don't know. We need answers." I said, "I can't." Her voice echoed across the empty road. Then we heard another voice, a man's voice, coming from somewhere in the trees. "Rem?" Every one of us froze. Rem slowly turned. An old man stood near the tree line. Ken whispered, "Grandpa?" It was his grandfather. He had apparently been walking near the edge of the village. He stared directly at Rem. Unlike Ken's parents, he could see her. Rem started crying. "Grandpa," but the old man didn't smile. He didn't approach her. Instead, his face turned pale. He took a step backward. No, Ken ran toward him. "Grandpa, you know her?" His grandfather kept staring at Rem. "No, you said her name." "No, you literally said Rem." The old man began shaking. Rem took one step toward him. He shouted, "Don't come closer." We all stopped. Ken stared at his grandfather. "What is going on?" The old man looked at us, then back at Rem. His voice trembled. "Where did you find her?" Ken's face went blank. "What do you mean? Where did you find that girl?" "She's my sister." "No, she has lived with us for 21 years. His grandfather shook his head. "No, she hasn't." Rem was crying silently now. The old man pointed toward the village. 22 years ago, before you were born, your mother was pregnant. Can didn't move. It was a girl. Rem's breathing changed. The old man continued. Your parents had already chosen a name. Nobody asked what it was. We already knew. Rem, Can, looked at his sister. His grandfather's eyes filled with tears. But the baby died before she was born. Nobody spoke. I could hear the wind moving through the trees. Can whispered, "That's impossible." His grandfather nodded slowly. We buried her. Rem made a small sound. Aaron grabbed her hand. Can's grandfather pointed farther down the road, in the family cemetery. Rem stared toward the village. Then she whispered, "No." The old man began crying. I helped your father bury the coffin. Ken looked sick. My parents don't remember. They weren't supposed to. What does that mean? His grandfather looked at Rem, then at us, and the fear in his eyes became something deeper. Recognition, because we made sure they wouldn't. A cold feeling moved through my body. "What did you do?" Ken asked. His grandfather didn't answer immediately. Then he looked toward the village. There are things older than our family living beneath that land. I wanted to laugh. I couldn't. His grandfather continued. When your mother lost the child, she nearly lost her mind. Your father wasn't much better. They couldn't accept it. Rem's legs seemed weak. Aaron held her upright. So we asked for help. From who? I asked. The old man looked toward the trees, something that should never have answered. Silence, it promised to remove their grief. Ken swallowed. And it did. His grandfather stared at Rem. It took the memory of the child. I felt my heart pounding. Then what is she? The old man didn't answer. Rem screamed at him. What am I? Birds exploded from the trees. The old man flinched. Then, he said quietly, you're what came back. Nobody moved. Rem stared at him. I lived 21 years. He shook his head. No, yes. No, I went to school. No, I had birthdays. No, I have friends. The old man looked at us. Do you remember meeting her for the first time? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Of course I remembered Rem. But when had I met her? I searched my memory. Nothing. I remembered her making coffee, breaking up arguments, laughing, walking through the house. But there was no beginning, no first meeting. I looked at Aaron. His face told me he'd realized the same thing. Rem turned toward him. When did we meet? Aaron started crying. I don't know. You told me we met at a party. I remember telling you that. Then, remember the party. He couldn't. Rem stepped away from him. Her whole body trembled. Can's grandfather whispered, "She wasn't there yesterday." We looked at him. What? The girl. He pointed at Rem. She wasn't there yesterday. Ken shook his head. What are you talking about? Not literally yesterday. He struggled to explain. Whatever she is, she doesn't live through time the way we do. It places itself into your past. Once you see it, you remember always knowing it. My stomach turned. Every memory I had of Rem suddenly felt poisoned. How many of them had actually happened? Which ones were real? Had she ever made us coffee? Had she ever stopped our arguments? Or had those memories simply appeared inside my mind one day, complete and unquestioned? Rem looked devastated. I remember them too. Her grandfather nodded sadly. I'm sure you do. That was when Rem began screaming. Not from anger, from pain. She grabbed her head and collapsed. Aaron caught her before she hit the ground. Her body flickered. I don't know how else to describe it. For less than a second, I could see the road through her arm. Then, she became solid again. Ken shouted her name. His grandfather stepped backward. It's starting. What is? The forgetting. I suddenly remembered the cafe. Her university. Her parents. The world wasn't proving that Rem had never existed. The world was removing her. One person at a time. One record at a time. One memory at a time. Aaron hugged her. No, 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 no. Rem looked at him. Do you love me? Yes. Say my name. Rem, again, Rem, again, Rem. Ken grabbed her hand. I did the same. For several minutes, we stood on that road repeating her name. Rem, 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 as though saying it could keep her alive, as though memory itself was the only thing holding her in this world. Eventually, we returned home. We never reached the cemetery. Maybe we should have. Maybe that's where the answer was. But Rem couldn't get any closer. That was 3 days ago. Yesterday morning, Aaron called me. He sounded confused. Hey, do you know why I have your number? My blood went cold. Aaron? Yeah? Where's Rem? Silence. Who? I hung up. I immediately called Can. He answered. Can, where is your sister? What sister? I drove to his house. Rem opened the door. She was crying. They forgot. I stepped inside. Can was sitting in the living room. He looked at me strangely when I entered. Rem stood right beside him. He couldn't see her, couldn't hear her, couldn't remember her. Only I could. She followed me into the hallway. Why do you still remember? I don't know. Please don't forget me. I won't. You don't know that. She was right. I didn't. So I started writing everything down. Her name is Rem. She is 21 years old. She has long hair. She smiles when she's nervous. She gets angry when she's frightened. She used to work at a cafe. She had a boyfriend named Aaron. Her brother is Can. Her parents once expected a daughter. That daughter died before birth. Something brought her back. Or maybe something only made us believe she came back. I don't know anymore. Last night, Rem sat beside me while I wrote. She looked exhausted. Will you post it? She asked. Yes, why? So other people can remember you. She smiled. Do you think that will work? I don't know. Then she hugged me. I felt her arms. I smelled her hair. She was warm. Real. Completely real. This morning, I woke up at my desk. The document was still open. For a few seconds, I didn't understand what I was reading. There was a name repeated throughout it. Rem. I didn't recognize it. Then I saw a woman sitting across the room. She was crying. I nearly screamed. "Who are you?" Her face broke. She covered her mouth with both hands. "No," I stood. "How did you get into my house?" "No, please, who are you?" She walked toward me. I backed away. "Don't come closer." She stopped. Tears ran down her face. "You promised." "Promised what?" "You said you wouldn't forget." I looked at the document again, then at her. My stomach turned. "Rem?" Her entire expression changed. Yes, she rushed forward and hugged me. Every instinct told me to push her away. I didn't. Because I had written it down. Because whoever I had been yesterday trusted her. Because apparently, yesterday, I loved her enough as a friend to try to keep her alive through memory. So I'm posting this now. I don't know how long I'll remember why. I don't know whether you'll remember reading it. Maybe tomorrow this post will disappear. Maybe the name will mean nothing to you. But right now, there's a 21-year-old woman sitting beside me. She's watching me type. She's real. At least for the moment. Her name is Rem. Please remember it. Because a few minutes ago, she looked over my shoulder at what I was writing and suddenly started crying again. I asked what was wrong. She pointed at the first sentence. I read it twice before I understood. Have you ever met someone who doesn't exist in official records, whose own grandparents have never even heard her name, but who lives in a house in the flesh? Rem stared at the screen. Then she whispered something that made me stop typing. My grandparents did remember me. I looked at her. What? She pointed at the sentence again. You wrote that they never heard my name. I stared at it. She was right. That wasn't what had happened. Her grandfather had remembered. He was the one who told us everything. I quickly searched through what I'd written. The story was changing, not in front of my eyes. It had already changed. Details were disappearing. Memories were being rewritten. The old man who remembered her was becoming an old man who never had. I turned toward Rem. She was staring at me with pure terror. It's not just making people forget me, she whispered. What is it doing? She looked back at the screen. It's making a world where I was never here. I didn't know what to say. Then my phone rang. Can, I answered immediately. Can, there was heavy breathing on the other end. Then he spoke. Why is there a grave in our family cemetery with my last name on it? I stood up. Rem stared at me. What does it say? I asked. Ken was silent for several seconds. When he finally answered, his voice was shaking. It doesn't have a first name. I looked at Rem. Her face had gone completely pale. Then, Ken whispered, and the date of death is tomorrow. Story. Sorry to pause for just a moment. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you're enjoying the calm so far. If you'd like more nights like this, true stories, gentle rain, no interruptions, please subscribe to Lacuna Noir. It really helps me keep creating these peaceful experiences for you. And tap the bell so you're here every time a new story arrives in the dark. Now, back to the story. My name is Tony, and until recently I thought the strangest people I met at work were drunk businessmen trying to impress clients. I work as a bartender at a fairly expensive place downtown. Calling it a bar doesn't really describe it properly. It's more like a restaurant, lounge, and small performance venue all put together. The sort of place where people wear jackets to drink whiskey. Every night, we have some form of entertainment. Jazz bands, singers, comedians, small theater acts. Occasionally, someone comes in with some unusual performance that management thinks will attract people with money to spend. Most customers aren't really there for the entertainment anyway. They sit around drinking cocktails while discussing business meetings, vacations, old college stories, investment portfolios, or whatever else people with expensive watches talk about. I don't mind the job. The tips are good, and most nights are interesting enough to keep me from staring at the clock. A few months ago, management started booking a magician. His stage name was Mystical Monty. I thought the name sounded ridiculous when I first heard it. Then I watched him perform. I understood why people liked him. Monte knew how to control a room. Off stage, he was almost painfully quiet. He kept to himself, rarely joined conversations, and usually spent his time practicing in an empty corner before his show. Sometimes, after performing, he would come to the bar and order a drink to take home. Nothing complicated. Usually whiskey. Sometimes something sweeter. He always paid cash. On stage, though, he became a completely different person. The lights would dim, smoke would roll across the stage, music would start. Then Monty would appear wearing a black top hat, long cape, white gloves, and a bright theater mask. Nobody had ever seen his face. At least nobody I knew. The mask was smooth and white, with raised cheeks and an exaggerated, happy expression. It wasn't terrifying on its own. It looked almost playful. But something about never seeing the face underneath made it uncomfortable if you stared too long. His tricks were impressive. Cards appeared inside sealed bottles. Coins disappeared from closed fists. He could make flowers bloom from empty glasses. Once, he put a customer's watch inside a wooden box, burned the box on stage, and somehow the watch appeared inside the customer's coat pocket. People loved him. More importantly for me, people tipped better on nights he performed. Crowds became larger. People stayed longer. More drinks were ordered. So naturally, I liked the guy. At first. Then he started following me home. I noticed it maybe 3 weeks ago. My shifts usually end late. Depending on how busy we are, I leave sometime between midnight and 2 in the morning. I live close enough that walking is easier than driving. It usually takes about 20 minutes. I'm not particularly cautious when I walk home. That probably sounds stupid now. I use side streets, back alleys. Sometimes I cut through a small park because it saves several minutes. After working a long shift on my feet, all I care about is getting home as quickly as possible. The first time I noticed Monte behind me, I thought it was coincidence. I had left work around 1 in the morning. A few blocks away, I heard the quiet tap of a cane behind me. Clack, pause, clack, pause. I looked back. Someone turned around the corner behind me. Black coat, tall hat. Monty, I almost called out to him. Then I decided maybe he lived nearby. It wasn't strange enough to worry about. The next time happened 2 nights later. Same route, same sound. Clack, clack, clack. I looked behind me. Nothing. I kept walking. A minute later, I heard it again. When I suddenly turned, I saw the top of a black hat disappear behind an alley wall. That bothered me. I walked backward a few steps, then quickly crossed toward the alley. Monty, nothing. The alley was empty. There was no second exit. No doorway close enough for him to disappear through. Only dumpsters, brick walls, and a fire escape. I stood there longer than I want to admit. Eventually, I convinced myself I had mistaken someone else for him. But after that, I started paying attention. Almost every night Monte performed, I noticed something on my walk home. A shadow behind me. The sound of his cane. The edge of his cape disappearing around a corner. Once I saw his white mask reflected in the window of a closed shop. I spun around. Nobody there. It became difficult to believe it was coincidence. So I searched his name online. Mystical Monty. There were plenty of videos, posters, reviews, photographs. People loved discussing his performances. But nobody seemed to know anything about the actual man. No real name, no hometown, no interviews without the mask, no photographs showing his face. Most descriptions repeated the same words. Mysterious, masked, elegant, strange, famous. That was about it. Eventually, I got tired of feeling nervous every time I walked home, so I confronted him. He came into the bar before his performance and was arranging playing cards on one of the tables. I walked straight toward him. Monty, he looked up. We need to talk. He tilted his head. What's wrong? Stop following me home. For the first time since I had known him, his entire body became still. What? You heard me. He stared. I haven't been following you. Bullshit, I'm serious. I've seen you. Where? On my walk home. Multiple times. He looked genuinely confused. That actually irritated me more. Don't play stupid. I'm not. Then who keeps hiding behind alleys wearing your fucking hat? Monty didn't answer. Something changed. It was small. His head slowly turned toward the stage, then toward the entrance, like he had just realized something. That scared me more than if he had gotten angry. Monty? He gathered the cards. I don't feel well. What? I need to leave. You perform in an hour, I know. He packed everything into his case. I'm sorry. Then he left. Management wasn't happy. Customers were already arriving, but Monty simply disappeared for the night. I assumed I had scared him. Maybe he realized I had caught him. Maybe he worried I would involve police. The following evening, he returned. He looked different. I couldn't see his face because of the mask, obviously, but his posture was tense. He kept looking toward me, not staring exactly. Quick glances, like he wanted to say something, but couldn't. After his performance, he didn't come to the bar for his usual drink. He packed his equipment and left. I stayed late cleaning. When I finally finished, I considered calling a cab. I should have. Instead, I walked. I was tired. And tired people make stupid decisions. I took my usual shortcut through the park. At night, the park is mostly empty. There are lamps along the main walkway, but plenty of dark spaces between them. Trees block most of the nearby buildings. Normally, that doesn't bother me. That night, after maybe 5 minutes, I heard something behind me. Clack, I stopped. Clack, my stomach tightened. I turned. Monty stood perhaps 30 feet away. Top hat, cape, white smiling mask. Cane in one hand. He slowly walked toward me. Clack, clack. I was exhausted and angry enough that fear didn't arrive immediately. What the hell do you want now? Monty stopped. He said nothing. Then he lifted the cane. He let it fall gently onto the top of his shoe. With one quick movement, he kicked it upward. His cape moved across it. The cane disappeared. I stared at him. Very impressive. He remained silent. Is that why you followed me? He raised one finger. Wait. Then he reached inside his coat and removed a sealed deck of playing cards, still wrapped in plastic. I sighed. You've got to be kidding me. Monty peeled away the plastic. He opened the box, then poured the cards into one gloved hand. He shuffled them. Fast, beautifully, cards moved between his hands like water. Normally, I would have been impressed. At 1 in the morning, standing alone with a man I thought had been stalking me, I was mostly annoyed. I'm going home. He held up the deck. No, at least. That's what the gesture seemed to mean. I'm not staying here for a card trick. I turned around. Something blocked my chest. I stopped. The cane. It was floating horizontally in front of me. No one was holding it. It stretched across the path like a barrier. I actually laughed, mostly because fear hadn't caught up with me yet. There's no fucking way you set up a wire out here. I reached over the cane. My hand moved above it, below it, around both ends. Nothing, no thread, no support, nothing. The cane simply hung in the air. My laughter stopped. I turned slowly. Monte stood exactly where I had left him. He held the cards toward me. Fine, I walked back. Fine, one trick. He spread the deck. I pulled a card. 2 of clubs. I looked at him. Do you want to see it? He shook his head, then motioned for me to fold it. I folded the card in half, then again. Monty produced a tiny black cloth bag from his sleeve. He held it open. I dropped the folded card inside. He closed the bag, shook it, then opened it. Empty, I clapped sarcastically. Great, he bowed. You did your trick. Now stop following me home. I expected him to produce the card from behind my ear or something. Instead, the floating cane suddenly moved from behind me and landed perfectly in his hand. Monty placed it beneath one arm, then walked away. Just like that. No explanation. No final trick. Nothing. I watched until he disappeared between the trees. Then I went home. Everything seemed normal when I entered. Front door locked, normally. No broken windows. Nothing disturbed. I checked the living room, kitchen, bathroom. I even looked toward the back door. Locked. I told myself the whole thing had simply been an extremely impressive trick. Maybe hidden wires really had been involved. Maybe someone else helped. I was too tired to care. I went into my bedroom, pulled back the blanket, got into bed. Then, felt something beneath my leg. Paper. I reached down. My fingers closed around something folded. I pulled it out. 2 of clubs. Same card, same folding marks. I stared at it. For a few seconds, I was actually impressed. I laughed quietly. How the hell? Then the obvious answer entered my mind. Someone had put it there, in my bedroom, inside my house. My amusement vanished. I slowly sat up. There were no signs of forced entry. That meant either Monte had somehow entered before I came home, or someone had been inside the whole time. I looked toward the bedroom door. Open, hallway dark. Then I noticed my closet. The door was partly open. Something white floated inside the darkness. My heart stopped. Monty's mask. He was standing inside my closet, watching me. Neither of us moved. I could barely breathe. The mask maintained that same cheerful expression. I suddenly understood how horrible it was. A person could smile because they were happy. A mask smiled because it had no other choice. I considered running. The bedroom door was maybe 8 feet away. Monty was closer. If I moved, I was certain he could reach me first. So I stayed in bed, thinking, trying not to panic. Then I looked at the card in my hand. Poker, bluffing, the stupidest idea imaginable entered my mind. That's not my card. My voice shook badly. Monty's head tilted. Confusion. I raised the folded card. That's not the 2 of clubs. For a second, nothing happened. Then the tip of his cane slowly emerged from the closet. It extended toward me. The hooked end caught the card, pulled it from my fingers. Monte lowered his masked face to inspect it. I ran. I threw myself from the bed, across the room, through the doorway. I didn't look behind me. I heard movement immediately. Fast footsteps, much faster than a person wearing formal shoes should move. I reached the front door, unlocked it, nearly tore it from the hinges, then sprinted into the street. I heard the cane behind me. Clack, clack, clack. I didn't know where I was going. Eventually, I realized my feet were taking me back toward work. That made sense. The bar had a gun. My boss kept it locked beneath the counter. I had access. I ran through the park, across 2 side streets, around the building. At the back entrance, I reached beneath the mat where we kept the emergency key. Yes, stupid place for a key. Not important right now. I unlocked the door, ran inside, locked it behind me, then went straight to the bar. I retrieved the gun, loaded it, waited. The building was completely dark except for the lights above the bar. I stood there, pointing the weapon toward the entrance. 5 minutes. 10:30, Monty never came. Eventually, sunrise began brightening the windows. My boss arrived in the morning. He found me sitting behind the bar with a gun beside me. Naturally, he wanted an explanation. I told him everything. The following: the park, the card, Monte hiding in my closet. My boss looked worried, not skeptical. Worried, that made me feel better at first. He told me to take the next day off. Then he said he would speak with Monte. Speak with him. That almost made me lose my mind. What exactly are you going to say? He stared at me. I don't know. I laughed angrily. What? Hey, buddy, just a friendly reminder that employees aren't supposed to break into other employees' homes? I'll handle it. He broke into my fucking house. I know. He was hiding in my closet. I understand. No, I don't think you do. My boss told me I should contact the police. At least we agreed about that. I decided not to go home. Instead, I stayed with an old college friend named Daniel. He has a small apartment on the other side of town. I didn't tell him every detail. I said someone from work had been stalking me and broke into my house. That was enough. He told me I could stay as long as necessary. For 2 days, nothing happened. I contacted police. They took a statement. I contacted a lawyer. He told me to document everything. My boss promised Monte would not be allowed near the bar until things were resolved. I started feeling slightly safer. Then my boss called me yesterday. His voice sounded strange. Tony, what? Monte came in. I sat upright. You let him? No, he was already here when I arrived. What? He was sitting on stage. The building had been locked. Alarm active. Nobody should have been inside. What did he say? My boss became quiet. He said he wanted to talk to you. Tell him to go to hell. I did. Another pause. Then he did a trick. My stomach tightened. What trick? He asked me to pick a card. I didn't speak. What card? 2 of clubs. I closed my eyes. Boss, yeah? Where's the card? Silence, I don't know. Where did he make it disappear? He put it into a little black bag, exactly the same. Listen to me. Don't go home. What? Do not go home. Tony, relax. I'm serious. I'm at work. Stay there. My boss laughed nervously. Then another voice came through the phone. Very faint. Who are you talking to? Not Monty, a woman. My boss said, hold on. Then the call ended. I tried calling back. No answer. 10 minutes later, police called me. My boss had been found unconscious in the employee restroom. No serious injuries. He didn't remember what happened. But there was something inside his shirt pocket. A folded card. 2 of clubs. That was when I stopped believing Monty was simply a stalker. I started researching again. Not Monty specifically. The tricks. The mask. The name. Eventually, I found an old newspaper scan. It was from 1978. There was a photograph advertising a magician performing at a hotel. The image was grainy, black and white, but I recognized the costume instantly. Top hat, cape, white smiling mask. The performer's name? Mystical Monty. The article referred to him as the mysterious masked illusionist who never reveals his face. I stared at the picture for a long time. Maybe the name had been passed down. A stage identity. Like different performers playing the same character. That explanation would have worked. Then I found another advertisement. Mystical Monty. Same mask, same costume. Then 1936. Same then 1919. The photographs became worse the farther back I searched, but there was always enough detail. Same hat, same cane, same happy mask. And one other thing. Every advertisement mentioned a card trick. The Vanishing Choice. That was its name. I found a description in an old magic magazine. A volunteer selects a card. The magician causes it to disappear. The card later returns somewhere impossible. The article included a warning from another performer. It said Monte refused to explain the method. The final line bothered me. Those selected for the trick are advised not to accept the return of the card. I read that sentence maybe 20 times. Not accept the return. I had accepted it. I had picked it up from my bed, held it, recognized it as mine. Maybe that mattered. Then I remembered what I had said in the closet. That's not my card. Monte had stopped. He had checked. And that gave me enough time to escape. What if the trick depended on me acknowledging ownership? I went to the police station with everything. Old advertisements, articles, screenshots. The officer looked at me like I needed psychiatric help. I don't blame him. A 100-year-old magician isn't exactly an easy thing to put into a report. They agreed to have officers accompany me home. We went this afternoon. Nothing looked disturbed. The closet was empty. No fingerprints except mine. No obvious evidence anyone had entered. Then one officer noticed something on my bedside table. A playing card. I hadn't left one there. He picked it up. "What's this?" I nearly shouted. "Don't touch it." He looked surprised. Then showed me. 2 of clubs. But I had thrown that card toward Monte. He had taken it. I never brought it back. The officer laughed. "Is this the scary card? Put it down." He did. Maybe because I looked genuinely terrified. We left. I'm still staying with Daniel. I told him more tonight. Not everything. Enough. He thought I was stressed and suggested we drink. I agreed. Anything that helped me sleep sounded good. Around midnight, Daniel went into his bedroom. I took the couch. For a while, I watched television. Then I heard something. Clack. My entire body froze. Clack. It came from the hallway outside the apartment. Clack closer. Daniel opened his bedroom door. "You hear that?" I nodded. The sound stopped outside our front door. Silence. Then 3 gentle knocks. Daniel whispered, "Police?" "No. How do you know?" I knew. The door handle moved. It was locked. The handle returned. Then something slid underneath the door. A playing card, face down. Daniel started walking toward it. "Don't." He stopped. "What? Don't touch it." The card slowly turned over by itself. 2 of clubs. Daniel stared. "What the fuck?" Then something tapped against the living room window. We both turned. Daniel lives on the 7th floor. Monte stood outside. Not hanging from anything, not standing on anything, just outside the window. His shoes rested against empty air. Top hat, perfectly straight. Cape hanging downward as if gravity worked normally for him. White, smiling mask. He raised one gloved hand, then pointed toward the card. Daniel screamed. I grabbed his arm. "Don't touch it." Monty tapped the glass again, then raised 2 fingers. He pointed at me. Then Daniel. Two of clubs. I finally understood something. The card wasn't mine anymore. Maybe it never represented a card. Maybe it represented people. 2, us. Monte reached into his coat. He removed a fresh deck. Daniel started crying. What does he want? I don't know. Monte spread the cards against the glass. Then the smiling mask slowly turned toward Daniel. A card pushed through the window, not through an opening, through the glass itself, like the glass was water. It landed on the carpet. Daniel stared. I already knew what it would be. 2 of clubs. Now there were 2 identical cards on the floor. Monte lifted one finger to his mask. Quiet, then disappeared. No smoke, no flash. He was simply there one moment and gone the next. Daniel wanted to call the police. I told him to. While he did, I searched through the old articles again. There was one detail I had missed. A report from 1936. A man claimed his wife disappeared after attending Monty's performance. According to him, she came home carrying a playing card. 2 of clubs. The next morning, she was gone. No forced entry, no blood, nothing missing. Except every photograph containing her had changed. In each one, her place had been replaced by a white theater mask. I haven't told Daniel that part yet. I don't want him more frightened than he already is. But something else happened while I was reading. Daniel stopped talking to police. I looked over. He was staring at the two cards. Daniel? No answer. Hey, he smiled. Not normally. Too wide. Then he asked, do you want to see a trick? I backed away. Daniel? He reached behind the couch. When his hand returned, he was holding a black cane. I ran into the bathroom and locked the door. That was about 20 minutes ago. Daniel is outside. At least, I think it's Daniel. He keeps knocking. 3 times. Then silence. 3 more. Every few minutes, he speaks. His voice sounds normal. Tony, come out. Then, it's okay. Then I understand now. I called the police. They said officers are coming. But I don't know if that matters. Because there's another problem. There's a mirror above the bathroom sink. A few minutes ago, I noticed someone reflected behind me. Mystical Monty. I turned around. Nobody looked back. Still there. He isn't wearing the mask anymore, but I still can't see his face. Every time I focus on it, I see someone different. My boss, Daniel. A. Stranger. Me, then the mask appears again. He has a deck of cards in his hand. He keeps shuffling. I'm trying not to look, but every time I look away, I hear the cards. Shift, shift, shift. He just stopped. There's one card pressed against the inside of the mirror. 2 of clubs, and beneath it, words are appearing. Not written. Scratched into the glass from the other side. That is your card. I keep saying it isn't. I don't know whether that will help again. That's not my card. That's not my card. That's not my card. The knocking outside the bathroom stopped. Now Daniel is laughing. Except it doesn't sound like Daniel anymore. It sounds like a crowd. Dozens of people laughing at once. Applauding, like an audience waiting for the final trick. The mirror just cracked. One thin line. Right across Monty's smiling mask, a gloved finger is pushing through. I think I finally understand why nobody has ever seen Mystical Monty's face. There isn't one person underneath the mask. There are all the people who chose the card. And I think he has been following me because the trick isn't finished until I join them. So if you ever see a masked magician calling himself Mystical Monty, don't volunteer. Don't take a card. If he follows you home, don't acknowledge him. And if the 2 of clubs ever appears somewhere it couldn't possibly be, whatever you do, don't pick it up. Don't call it yours. I made that mistake once. The police are outside now. I can hear them shouting in the apartment. Daniel stopped laughing. Someone just kicked down the bathroom door. I thought it was an officer. It isn't. Mystical Monty is standing there. His mask is cracked down the middle. Behind the crack, I can see eyes. Hundreds of them. He spread the deck toward me. Every single card is the 2 of clubs. He bowed. Then, for the first time, he spoke. Not in Daniel's voice. Not in my boss's voice. In mine. You were right. I can't move. He's holding one card out. That wasn't your card. The mask split wider. So pick again. The story began 7 years ago. I don't know if any of you have ever had a friend with an obsession so strange that after knowing them for long enough, you eventually stop questioning it. For me, that friend was Avery. Avery loved water. Not swimming, not rivers or lakes, drinking water. And when I say he loved drinking water, I don't mean he was one of those health-conscious people carrying a giant bottle everywhere and reminding everyone else to stay hydrated. Water was a hobby to him. An obsession, really. The first time I discovered this side of Avery, we had known each other for less than a month. We were university students then, sharing the same dormitory building. It was summer, and the air conditioner had broken during one of the hottest weeks of the year. The entire building felt like an oven. One afternoon, while walking back from class, I stopped at the convenience store downstairs and bought 2 bottles of chilled mineral water. I didn't even buy them because I was thirsty. Our dorm had a water dispenser. I bought them because they were cold, and I planned to press one against my neck on the walk upstairs. When I reached our room, I handed the second bottle to Avery. His reaction surprised me. Until then, Avery had always been polite, but distant. He wasn't rude. He simply didn't seem interested in people. But when he saw the bottle, he looked directly at me. Really looked at me. "You like this brand too?" I stared at him. "What?" He smiled slightly. "Good taste. Smart choice." Before I could ask what he meant, Avery opened the bottle. He took one small sip. Then he closed his eyes. I watched him hold the water in his mouth for several seconds before swallowing. His expression looked almost serious, like someone tasting an expensive wine. Finally, he opened his eyes. "The mouthfeel is slightly firm," he said. "The aftertaste comes quickly. Calcium content is a little high, but this year's batch is softer than last year's." I honestly thought he was joking. "You can tell all that from water?" Avery looked confused by the question. Of course, that was my introduction to what he called water tasting. At first, I thought Avery might have some kind of psychological condition. He was extremely intelligent, but socially unusual. Later, I learned there were entire communities dedicated to tasting water. Water sommeliers, collectors, people discussing mineral content, sources, filtration methods, mouthfeel, temperature, and aftertaste with the same seriousness wine enthusiasts use when talking about expensive bottles. Most people would probably call it pretentious nonsense. Avery didn't care. He had an almost abnormal sense of taste. He claimed he could tell dozens of mineral water brands apart without seeing the labels. Sometimes he would take one sip and immediately name the country it came from. Then he would start explaining its calcium, magnesium, or sodium content as though he were reading laboratory results. Was he always right? I have no idea. I never cared enough about bottled water to test him properly. But Avery believed in his ability completely. And honestly, his obsession seemed harmless. He wasn't drinking alcohol every night. He wasn't doing drugs. He wasn't gambling. He drank water. There are worse hobbies. The 4 years we spent together at university were actually some of the better years of my life. Avery was strange, but he was a good person. He was also brilliant. He graduated from chemical engineering with a perfect GPA, the only student in the entire department to do it. Almost immediately after graduation, he was hired by a large company as a chemical engineering analyst. From what I heard, the salary was incredible. We didn't stay extremely close afterward, but we never completely lost contact either. Maybe that was because I was his only real friend. Avery never seemed bothered by that. Every few months, we would meet somewhere, usually a bar or a restaurant. I would drink whiskey I could never afford myself while Avery ordered water and spent half the evening telling me about some rare mineral spring he had recently discovered. He always paid. Things stayed like that for several years. Then one day, Avery sent me a message. "Do you know about tasteless water?" I stared at it. I started typing, "Isn't all water supposed to be?" Before I finished, another message appeared. It was a link. Avery had forwarded me a post from one of the obscure liquid tasting forums he regularly visited. I opened it. The post already had more than 200 replies. The person who wrote it claimed that many years earlier, probably sometime during the late 1990s, they had tasted a bottle of water unlike anything they had experienced before. According to them, the brand name had been something like Taste Less, or maybe Tasteless. They couldn't remember exactly. Recently, for reasons they didn't explain, they had become obsessed with finding it again. The problem was that there seemed to be no evidence the brand had ever existed. No company records, no advertisements, no old bottles appearing on auction websites. Nothing. Most replies accused the person of making the story up. But one comment stood out. Someone claimed tasteless water had never been commercially sold. According to them, it had circulated privately among a small number of rehabilitation centers and clinics during the late 1990s. The company responsible had supposedly gone bankrupt after only 3 years. All records and production equipment had been destroyed afterward. That was all. Nothing about why rehabilitation centers had used it. Nothing about what was inside. Nothing explaining why someone would manufacture water specifically for clinics. Then, while I was still scrolling through the comments, the page disappeared. Deleted, I went back to my conversation with Avery. He had already messaged me again. "Do you think tasteless water was real?" I replied. "Probably not." The guy deleted the post. "Sounds like a joke." Avery answered almost immediately. "Doesn't matter. I saved screenshots." Several images appeared. He had captured everything. He had even circled the words rehabilitation center in red. "Do you think this could be a breakthrough point in the investigation?" Investigation. That word bothered me. I replied no. Then another message appeared. "I just found several private rehabilitation centers that closed years ago. All of them claimed to use some form of natural therapy." Interesting, right? I typed, "Avery, don't do this. Relax, nothing will happen. I'm just going to look around." Then, we're still friends. Right, Av? I stared at the message. I don't know why, but something about it made me uneasy. Maybe because Avery rarely used emojis. Maybe because he had never needed reassurance about our friendship before. I replied that of course we were friends. His final message was, "I'll contact you later." He didn't. Avery disappeared for almost 6 months. At first, I assumed he was busy. Then weeks passed. I called. No answer. Messages remained unread. I emailed. Nothing. I contacted people from our university. Nobody had heard from him. Eventually, I tried his workplace. They wouldn't give me much information, but I discovered Avery no longer worked there. That frightened me. He had loved that job, or at least he had loved the money. For months, I had no idea where he was. Then one afternoon, while I was leaving my office, Avery was standing outside, just standing there. Waiting, he looked terrible. He had lost weight. His clothes were wrinkled. Dark circles surrounded his eyes, but he smiled when he saw me. "I found something." That was all he said. "What happened to you?" "I'll show you." He took me to a basement apartment he had been renting. Calling it an apartment is generous. It was basically one large underground room beneath an old building. The moment he opened the door, I smelled mold. There was another odor underneath it too, something wet and rotten. The kind of smell you get when water has been trapped somewhere too long. I stopped at the entrance. "Avery, what the hell is this?" "Come in." If anyone else had asked me to walk into a basement that smelled like that, I would have left. But this was Avery, my friend. So I went inside. The room barely contained anything. A mattress, a small table, boxes, stacks of papers, empty water bottles everywhere, hundreds of them. Some were normal commercial brands. Others were glass bottles with handwritten labels. Avery explained everything while I looked around. During the 6 months he had disappeared, He had spent nearly all of his savings searching for tasteless water. He contacted collectors, old clinic employees, former rehabilitation center staff, people from obscure internet forums. He traveled, paid for records, bought old medical supplies. He quit his job. Eventually, he moved into that basement because temporary work was enough to pay the rent while he continued searching. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You quit your job for water? He ignored me. At the center of the table sat a brown glass bottle. It looked old, very old. The top had been sealed with something resembling black resin. There was no printed label, only faded handwriting. 1998-04.12. Avery touched the bottle carefully, almost affectionately. An old collector had it, he said. Apparently it was kept as a specimen from some psychiatric treatment program. How much did you pay? He didn't answer immediately. Avery, everything. I stared at him. You spent all your savings? He smiled. I found it. That answer told me more than any number could. He picked up a knife and carefully cut through the black seal. The cap came loose. Nothing happened. No hiss, no gas, no unusual smell. He brought out 2 completely clean glasses. Then, very slowly, he poured the water. The liquid looked normal. Clear, still, nothing floating inside. Nothing growing in the bottle. Just water. Avery pushed one glass toward me. Drink, I laughed. Me too? He looked genuinely confused. We're friends. That was his reasoning. And somehow that was enough for me. Maybe I was stupid. Probably. But it was water that had been stored in glass. I told myself that even if it was more than 20 years old, there shouldn't be the same risk of chemicals breaking down as there would be with plastic. I picked up the glass. Avery raised his. We drank together. The liquid touched my tongue. I waited. Nothing. It was water. That's it. Slightly cooler than room temperature. No unusual flavor, no smell, no texture. If anything, it was almost unusually plain. After swallowing, I thought I noticed a tiny sweetness at the back of my tongue, but that could easily have been saliva. Avery studied my face. How is it? I knew he had spent everything finding this bottle. I didn't want to tell him it tasted exactly like tap water. So I tried to sound intelligent. It's smooth? He waited, maybe a little sweet afterward. The mineral balance seems good. Calcium, zinc, magnesium. Avery suddenly laughed. I stopped. He shook his head. Don't be nervous. It's just water. I let out a breath. Exactly. Just water. He looked into his empty glass. Slight disappointment crossed his face. It really is tasteless. Sorry, nothing special at all. He leaned back. My $3 million were probably wasted. I almost choked. $3 million? He looked at me. Yes, for some reason I had expected more. Maybe because of how completely he had destroyed his life chasing it. Still, $3 million was insane. But apparently, Avery had earned and saved enough money that he wasn't completely ruined. At least that was what I wanted to believe. Then, almost instantly, his behavior changed. He became normal again. How have you been? He asked. Did I cause you trouble by disappearing? That question actually relieved me. Maybe tasting the water had finally ended the obsession. Maybe Avery had spent 6 months chasing a fantasy, found it, discovered it was ordinary, and could finally return to his life. I'm fine, I told him. But next time, don't disappear like that. We're friends. He nodded. We started talking. Work, people from university, old trips, coworkers, anything normal. I think, looking back, I was deliberately trying to drag him back toward ordinary life. I wanted to remind him that the world contained things besides water. Most of the talking came from me. Avery barely responded. He nodded, smiled occasionally. But throughout the entire conversation, he kept holding his empty glass, turning it slowly between his fingers. Eventually, while I was complaining about someone from work, Avery interrupted me. "I'm thirsty." I laughed. "Then let's go somewhere. I could use a drink anyway." "No what?" "No need. There's nothing around here. We'd have to walk a little." Avery shook his head. "You keep talking. I'll just drink something here." His eyes moved downward. I followed his gaze. My glass. I had only drunk about 2/3. 1/3 of the tasteless water remained. Avery stared at it. "I only need a little more." His voice sounded different. "Quiet, tight, I'm really, really thirsty." Something changed in his eyes. It was hunger. No, not hunger. Greed, something primitive. Animal. Avery had always been extremely particular about cleanliness. If another person accidentally touched his drinking glass, he washed it. If someone drank from his bottle, he threw it away. Yet now he was staring at the water left in my glass. Water I had already drunk from. Water mixed with my saliva. Every instinct in me said not to give it to him. I should have listened. Instead, I felt sorry for him. I handed over the glass. Avery snatched it. Not took. Snatched, he brought it to his mouth so quickly that some of the water spilled over his chin. He swallowed everything, then tilted the glass farther. Nothing remained. Still, he kept going. He sucked at the bottom, then ran his tongue along the inside, around the sides, across the rim, trying to collect every remaining drop. I stared. "Avery?" He ignored me. "Are you okay?" He finally lowered the glass. "God, you must have been thirsty. I can go buy some more water." "Ha," he breathed out. Satisfied, like someone who had just finished an ice-cold beer after working all day in the sun. He wiped his mouth. "Sorry, what was that?" "Nothing," he smiled. "I just suddenly became incredibly thirsty." "You sure?" "I'm fine now." He lowered his eyes. Then he started licking the moisture from his fingertips, slowly, one finger at a time. The sound was tiny, wet, awful in that silent basement. "Av?" He looked up. "What?" That was when I noticed where he was looking. My lips, not my face. My mouth. The place where the water had touched before going back into the glass. I suddenly wanted to leave. Avery smiled slightly. "We're still friends, right?" My stomach tightened. "Of course. Why would you ask?" He looked away. No reason. That was our last normal conversation. I left shortly afterward. Avery disappeared again. This time, permanently, his phone number was disconnected. The basement was empty when I returned. His forum account was never updated. No messages, no new posts, nothing. I tried reporting him missing. The police were not particularly helpful. Avery was an adult. There was no evidence of violence. No family had reported him missing. According to them, an adult had every legal right to disappear if he wanted. That was when I realized something that still bothers me. Avery had never mentioned his family. Not once. 4 years at university together. Years of occasional meetings afterward. And I knew nothing about his parents. No siblings, no hometown. Nothing for someone I considered my friend. I knew almost nothing about where he came from. And now nobody knew where he had gone. For a while, I tried convincing myself that was the end of it. Then the thirst started. Not immediately. The first few days after drinking the tasteless water, I felt normal. Maybe a little dry in the morning. Nothing unusual. Then I noticed I was drinking more. A bottle at work. Another during lunch. Several glasses after getting home. I blamed the weather. Then I started waking during the night. My mouth would be completely dry. Not normal thirst. It felt as though every bit of moisture had been removed from my tongue. I would drink a full glass of water, then another, The thirst remained. Tap water stopped helping. Bottled water stopped helping. Cold, warm, filtered, mineral, nothing. Eventually, I understood what Avery had felt in the basement. It wasn't that the tasteless water tasted good. It made everything else taste wrong. Normal water began tasting dirty, heavy, full of things I suddenly noticed. Metal, chlorine, minerals, plastic from the bottle. Every glass tasted contaminated. Only one memory remained clean. That old water. Plain, empty, tasteless, perfect. I started searching for Avery's forum. At first, I only wanted to understand what we had drunk. Then I found an archived version of the deleted post. Most comments were gone. But there was one reply I had never seen before. It had been posted only seconds before the thread was deleted. Do not drink from the treatment bottles. The water was never intended to cure addiction. It transfers it. I read that sentence for almost an hour. Transfers it. Suddenly, the rehabilitation centers made sense. Maybe the people running those programs hadn't been treating alcoholics or drug addicts with special water. Maybe they had been moving the craving somewhere else, taking one addiction and giving it a new object. Something harmless. Water. Except it wasn't harmless. Because once the body learned the difference between ordinary water and whatever had been in that bottle, nothing else satisfied it. I searched deeper. Eventually, I found references to one of the clinics Avery had investigated. Almost every patient in a particular treatment group had disappeared. Officially, the program had been discontinued because of severe hydration complications. One surviving report described patients drinking continuously. 10 liters. 20 more, their blood became dangerously diluted. Kidneys failed. Brains swelled. And still they begged for water. But even that wasn't the worst part. One sentence had been blacked out in the scanned report. I adjusted the contrast until I could partly read it. Subject attempted to recover treated fluid from another patient's saliva. I immediately remembered Avery staring at my lips. My stomach turned. He hadn't wanted my leftover water because he was thirsty. He wanted the water that had already touched me. Maybe once tasteless water entered the body, it changed, or reproduced, or remained inside. I don't know. All I know is that my own thirst kept growing. I stopped drinking ordinary water because it only made me feel worse. I started chewing ice, then licking condensation from glasses, then collecting the moisture that formed inside sealed bottles. Nothing helped. A week ago, I woke up standing in my bathroom. I don't remember getting out of bed. The faucet was running. My mouth was pressed directly against it. Water flowed down my face. The sink had overflowed. The floor was flooded. I had been drinking in my sleep. Yesterday, a coworker took a sip from my bottle by mistake. She apologized. Normally, I wouldn't care. Instead, I stared at the place where her lips had touched. I could see a tiny line of moisture on the rim. My mouth filled with saliva. For one terrible second, I wanted to grab the bottle and lick it. Not because of the water inside, because of what had touched her mouth. I threw the bottle away. Then spent 10 minutes standing beside the trash can, trying not to pull it back out. I understand Avery now. That frightens me more than anything. I think he disappeared because he reached this stage before I did, and I think I know what comes after it. There was one final file attached to the clinic archive, a patient interview. Most of the recording was damaged, but one sentence was clear. The patient kept saying, "Water remembers the mouth." Again and again. Water remembers the mouth. I don't know what that means. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But tonight, someone knocked on my apartment door. I didn't answer. They knocked again. Then, a voice spoke from the hallway. "Av?" My entire body froze. Nobody calls me that. Nobody except Avery. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. Then something wet touched the other side of the door. I could hear it, a slow licking sound, from the floor upward. When it reached the height of my face, it stopped. Then Avery's voice whispered, "We're still friends, right?" I haven't opened the door. I don't think I will. But I am so thirsty. There is a glass of water beside me right now. I can't drink it. It smells wrong. Everything smells wrong. And somehow, through the closed apartment door, I can smell something else. Something perfectly clean, perfectly empty. Tasteless, Avery is still outside. At least, I think it's Avery. Every few minutes, he presses his mouth against the door. I can hear him swallowing, and each time he does, my own mouth becomes a little drier. I think I finally understand why there were 2 glasses on his table that day. He didn't invite me there because he wanted to share the water with his only friend. He needed another person to drink it. The rehabilitation centers weren't transferring addiction into water. They were transferring it between people. Avery spent 6 months looking for someone who had already been infected. He couldn't find one, so he made one. Me, and now something is moving underneath the gap of my apartment door. A thin line of clear liquid. It is slowly spreading across the floor toward my chair. I should move. I should leave. I should call someone. Instead, I'm staring at it. Because for the first time in weeks, I don't feel thirsty. Not while it's getting closer. Look, if you're still watching, you already know what this channel is. No jump scares, no fake drama, just real stories about real people who survive things most of us can't even imagine. And that's scarier than any movie could ever be. If you want more of this raw, unfiltered truth, told the way it deserves to be told, subscribe to Lacuna Noir. We're not here to waste your time. We're here to tell the stories that actually matter. Thanks for listening. Now go get some sleep, if you can.